Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another little walk and talk vlog from me over here at $3 Theater. And tonight I wanted to have an interesting little discussion about my thoughts on deep fake technology, because we are getting to a place right now where studios are going to start deep faking actors into roles. I mean, look, it's a hot topic, let's be fair. It's a very interesting topic to be sure, but I think we need to discuss the fact that it's not going away. And it doesn't matter how long the actors strike, it doesn't matter how long the writers strike, it doesn't matter how much you like it or don't like it, it is here. The genie is out of the bottle and it's being used in $300 million movies, and it's only going to get better, and it's only going to get more precise, and it's only going to be used in more interesting ways. One of the things I've been kind of curious about that, though, has been everything to do with Star Wars. So obviously Lucasfilm and ILM like to be on the forefront of technology. This is not anything new. It is very much a core tenet of George Lucas's entire ideology. You know, there's a whole thing that was talked about during the start of the writer's strike about whether or not Lucas would use AI if he was still making films. And there are people out there that are like, no, he would never do that. Lucas would never touch AI. No, he absolutely would. And I think if you have to lie to yourself about that, you're really not paying much attention. Lucas is a futurist. He's always been a futurist, and he will look for any way he can to utilize new technology in his films. That's just what he does. I mean, look at what ILM has been able to bring to the table overall after, all these years. So that idea is obviously something that people at Lucasfilm and people at Disney definitely wanted to keep up with. I mean, there's a reason why that we got Mark Hamill at the end of Mandalorian season 2, and why it was fixed by a guy named Shamook on YouTube, and they hired him to work on Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, probably as well as the Book of Boba Fett a year later. What's interesting about that, though, is the Luke Skywalker in the Book of Boba Fett was actually better rendered than Indiana Jones, but that probably had a lot to do with, well, the fact that Luke didn't do anything other than just kind of stand there. So they didn't really have to do much with him, whereas Indiana Jones had a full 25-minute opening action sequence of him during World War II. You can see the whole situation. That being said, we have to think about where this stuff is going and what exactly it's going to be used for. And I do think that is something worth having the conversation about. Because as we know, Ahsoka comes out next week, and Ahsoka has Thrawn. And Thrawn's connection into the vast lore of Star Wars very much is heir to the Empire. And that, as we know, is going to be the Dave Filoni directed movie that will either bring about the ending of the Mandoverse or end this chapter. Very similar to an Avengers movie. But in that book, one of the things that people want is to know whether or not Han, Luke, and Leia are going to appear, as well as Mara Jade, and a litany of other characters and story arcs and plot developments and things like that. And the truth of the matter is, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what they've got cooking. But what I do know is that Filoni is a big fan of all that. And Filoni loves all of that. And so it only serves to reason that with the technology that Lucasfilm has already shown they're willing to use, whether it's Peter Cushing in Rogue One, Luke in Mandalorian or Boba Fett, and of course Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, it does serve to reason that this is something that might be happening. Because why not? You know what I mean? If they get permission from Luke Skywalker or from Mark Hamill, James Earl Jones has already sold off his voice rights to Lucasfilm in perpetuity to continue the character of Darth Vader created in a machine. By the way, Mark Hamill's dialogue, Luke Skywalker's dialogue in both Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett was all voice cloned. It was AI. It was a deep fake. The technology is only getting better. If you've been paying attention to anything, you know that it's only getting better, and it's only going to continue getting better. So just think of it like this. if the consumer marketplace is able to utilize technology that is evolving at a rapid rate, what do you think is going to happen when the studios can get their hands on it? Or, quite frankly, what do you think they're doing now that they already have their hands on it? Because we have to think about that. We have to really think about the fact that they do have their hands on all this technology, and they are going to start utilizing it in ways that maybe you're not expecting. Personally, I mean, I'm here for it. I know people aren't going to like that, and some people might think that's just a standard answer from me, but I, like Lucas, am a futurist. I want to see what technology can bring to the table. Yes, there are going to be cheap imitation knockoffs. Yes, there are going to be terrible uses for it. Yes, some people are going to abuse it. That's any technology. What we need to do, at least in regards to AI, is push for regulation. I've been open about that. It doesn't matter how much of a proponent I am, I still think that it's a thing we need to do. But I also want to see what it can accomplish, because it can do a lot. Think about it like this. Filmmakers struggle with getting financing for their movies. Studios, and they want to know if they're going to have a celebrity attached, so that celebrity can be run through a computer program to determine whether or not they are bankable enough in this market, domestically or internationally, whether or not they're going to bring ticket sales or whether or not they're going to bring anything. That is something that happens. We know that the summer box office season sees nothing but sequels or tentpoles. I mean, nobody expected Barbie to do what it did, but it did. And the lesson that they're going to learn from that is, quite frankly, the wrong one. Barbie did well, so let's go and make all the Mattel toys into movies. Look at Transformers, Rise of the Beasts. What was the stinger at the end of that movie? We know that these guys want to push franchises. We know that these guys want to do things that are only going to be part of that. So the other thing we have to consider here is that the indie filmmaker will have the ability to utilize this technology in a way that will allow them, and really allow them, to explore their own creations, to not be hindered or held back by technology, to be able to utilize it in such a way that's going to allow them to really just express themselves in ways never before seen. I mean, look at what Photoshop and After Effects and Final Cut and Adobe, what all of those programs have done for the consumer market, for the prosumer market, and for the professional market. Movies nowadays are being edited on DaVinci Resolve more than Adobe Premiere. Adobe Premiere kicked the shit out of fucking Final Cut, and Final Cut took the crap away from Avid. Nonlinear editors have definitely been a highly utilized way of editing films all the way back since True Grit in 2010, which was the first movie to be edited, theatrical film release, to be edited on Final Cut 10 or Final Cut Pro. I forget which one, but it was a Final Cut. But that's what I'm talking about. Technology always advances. People will always find a use for it. AI is just the next thing. It will never fully replace any human artist, because human artists are still going to be needed to guide the property, to guide the technology. If you leave it to just producers, we're going to get shit, and the audience will basically react to it. But if you do it in a way that's actually going to be thoughtful and interesting, the audience will respond. And as more and more people start being able to do this kind of stuff on their own, tell their own stories, share those stories digitally, we are going to see a mass use from this in Hollywood. Is it going to cut down costs? In some ways, yes. Is it going to bring back actors from the dead? Well, yeah, it is. Is that good? Well, it depends on how it's done. All things considered, it depends on how well it's done. There's ethical implications to be said about that, but if the family of the actor signs off on it, if the actor was okay with it before they died, or enough money slides across the table and somebody with the ability, the power of attorney to make that deal makes it, then it will happen. That's not up to us in any other way outside of voting with your wallet. So while the subject matter is one that's going to be heavy for debate, I believe that we're on the precipice of the next golden age of cinema. Imagine what will happen when animators are going to be able to use this to better animate their work. How they'll be able to use AI images through Midjourney and then put it into Blender and able to make skeletal frames and then use all the assets they have there to make art. And that is why I'm most fascinated, because that is where things are going to go. But as always, I'm curious to know your thoughts, your opinions, good, bad, or the other. Let me know. I'll talk to you guys later. Be sure to watch Hollywood After Dark tonight. Have a good one, guys, and peace out.